Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. WowMax Money bringing you another Raid Shadow Legends video. Now, a viewer recently mentioned to me how tough it can be deciding between all the great revivers in Raid Shadow Legends and said that a countdown video would be really helpful. So today, we're going to be kicking off a brand new series on the channel where I'm going to be ranking the best champions in different categories, starting off with the top 15 revivers in the game. Now, every champ that I'm going to mention on this list is strong, but if you're trying to decide who fits your team best, this should help point you in the right direction. So with that, let's get into it. But before we go diving straight into the list, I quickly wanted to break down what my criteria were for my rankings. First one being, in order to qualify, you have to have Revive as an actual skill in your kit. It can't be a passive or something conditional. So if you're, for example, looking at Marichka, she obviously has the passive that as soon as she dies, she will revive every other member on her team that has gone down. Amazing, but not for this list. Here we're looking specifically for revivers in content using skills as revive. So we're talking champions like Raglan as an A3 that can actually revive a target ally, or AoE revives. So along with Marichka, it's also going to exclude champions like Siegfried, who needs everyone else on the team to go down before he can revive, or Lazarius even, where it's a passive, or Odin, where it's conditional based upon kill. So now that we know the actual exclusion criteria, let's talk about what makes a good reviver. Now, if we were doing this list entirely just based on the revive itself, all we would need to do is take a look at each champion, look at their cooldown for their revive, whether it's an AoE or a single target, how much HP they're coming back with for the allies, how much turn meter they're giving their allies when they return, whether they give them any additional effects, durability effects, increased damage, or whatever else, and just rank it purely based off the ability alone. However, the only problem with that is, a lot of times, you never need to revive. You bring a reviver as one of your slots on your team, and if things go wrong, a good reviver is going to be able to right the ship and bring your team back from the edge of destruction, back into the fight, and hopefully win that encounter. But if you never need to revive, then that reviver taking up one of your team slots better be bringing some other stuff to the table. And those are exactly the two criteria that I use for the ranking. One, how strong the actual revive component is and how good that champion is at pulling your team back from a loss. And two, how strong their kit is and what they actually bring for you if there's absolutely no need for a revive. So with that, let's jump right into the list, starting with number 15, and that is Mighty Ukko. So I'm going to try really hard not to say Ugo while we're talking about Mighty Ukko. Looking right at the revive. Ukko's Mercy. So 40% HP, great. The fact that there's no turn meter, don't love that. There is an increased speed, however, and a block damage. So this is something you really like to see. AoE, fantastic. The block damage is really helpful for making sure that allies stay alive if there's any follow-on hits. And the increased speed is obviously good, but you'd love to see that with a little bit of turn meter. So that's the only downside on this AoE. As for the rest of Ukko's kit, all AoE abilities, so lends himself really well to a stun set if you're looking purely for PvE purposes. Some great debuffs on him, including block buffs and a potential to steal buffs being applied to an enemy team, so that makes him relevant in places like the arena, but really excelling in places like Hydra and wave-based content. Now, Ukko's also got a buff strip on the A2 and a really great 20% in all battles speed aura. Can't go wrong with Ukko, even though Ukko is only number 15 on the list. These are all rockstar revivers. Next up on the list is one of my personal favorites, former Fusion, White Queen, Ankora. Now, unlike Ukko, Ankora only coming in with a single target revive. However, it is on a 3-turn cooldown, and it does bring 75% turn meter, or 100% if you're White King Narcissus. Resets the cooldowns of the revived ally skills as well, which is so helpful because coming in with more turn meter and with reset cooldowns means that your champions can just get back into the fight that much more quickly. So this revive is potentially a huge momentum swing, but outside the revive, Ankora's kit is phenomenal. She's got a potential reset for ally skills on her A1. She's got turn meter fill and a shield on A2 along with a cleanse, and then her passive makes her really special because it basically keeps nasty crowd control off of your highest crit damage champion, making sure that your guys can do all the damage they need, whether it's in PvE or arena. Also coming in with a speed in all battles aura. Ankora, so good, excellent in arena, and also great in a lot of PvE encounters. Now, coming in at number 13 is going to be our third fusion in a row, Lady Noelle. Looking at her revive alone, we see an AoE revive, bringing everyone back with 50% HP and turn meter. That's solid on its own. The fact that it is on a 5-turn booking down to a 3-turn cooldown makes it already insane. One of the best AoE revives in the game, just for being on a 3-turn and not a 4-turn cooldown. Now, she also can freeze enemies on the opposing side when she revives her allies, so making it so strong in arena or in different wave-based content like Doom Tower, Curse City, or something like that. Outside of this very powerful revive, however, she also has a good arena speed aura, so clearly tuned a little bit more for the arena, and that is where she shines today. She's one of the best revivers in the arena. The rest of her kit, PvE-wise, not as impressive. She's got block buffs on her A1. She does have increased speed on her A2 and the ability to do a little bit of healing and to cleanse off some buffs. But again, we see Sheep here. We see an arena aura. She's clearly more of a arena-centric champion, and if you are building her for arena, congratulations, she is phenomenal there. Coming in at number 12 is another single-target reviver and relatively newer in the game, and that is Praeva the Slitherer. Now, in terms of her kit, Praeva is a little bit of like a hybrid between Siphi and Ankora. She's got a speed in all battles aura. She has a single-target revive, this time bringing an ally back with 100% HP and 50% turn meter, while fully resetting their cooldowns, very similar to Ankora. For her passive, she also pulls debuffs from allied champions, but not hard crowd control, so a little bit different than Ankora, but similar in terms of concept. And then on her A2, she's got a multi-buff ability, which brings increased defense and increased speed, similar to Siphi, making her very powerful just by virtue of being compared to those two amazing revivers. Additionally, Praeva also has turn meter that she gives to her allies passively every turn at the end of her turn. So not only a very strong single target revive, but also a very powerful kit even outside of the revive. So definitely earning her a spot in the top 15. Coming in at number 11, while Marichka unfortunately did not qualify for the list because of the criteria, one of her faction mates did, and that is Kaja the Wry. Unlike most champions on the list that have their revive on their A3, Kaja has a revive on her A2, and it is an AoE revive, bringing allies back with 50% HP and turn meter, as well as increased crit rate and crit damage. Now, crit rate, probably less relevant, but crit damage is nice. Chances are if one of your champions went down, it was probably one of your squishier ones, like a damage dealer. So having them come back with this is good. However, you would like to see maybe some durability support from a revive. I would prefer that over having increased crit damage, but this is still an amazing AoE revive on a 4-turn cooldown. Then she also brings increased turn meter and block debuffs in the rest of her kit, some self-heals on her A1, and she also reduces the effects of turn meter reduction on your team. So this, along with her speed boost in her A3, makes her a very good speed lead for the arena, and that is one of the places where she shines in the game, but also solid in all content, just with the good AoE revive, as well as the turn meter and the block debuffs. We finally arrived at the top 10 of this top 15 list, and with that, we've also arrived at the face of Raid, the champion that everybody can earn, Arbiter. It should come as no surprise to anybody that Arbiter has made the list and that she is in the top 10. She has an incredible revive, bringing all allies back with 30% HP and 20% turn meter, but also granting herself an extra turn if anybody was revived. So as a revive on its own, 30 plus 20 would not really be that great, but getting the extra turn means that she can immediately roll into the rest of her kit, such as her turn meter fill and heal and increase attack. So that's what really makes her so strong, even though her revive itself is not that powerful on a 5-turn cooldown, but granting the extra turn effectively makes it a 4-turn cooldown, which brings it on par with a lot of the AoE revives in the game, and then allowing her to immediately go into the rest of her kit is really the strength of Arbiter. So aside from having a really solid revive, Arbiter can also still use this skill to just boost the team's turn meter, continue boosting it with her A3. She can reduce buff duration on the enemy team with her A2, making her really, really strong, even in situations where she has absolutely no need to revive the team. She also brings one of the better speed auras in the arena, and that is where she's frequently used as a speed lead, but you can pretty much use her anywhere in the game as a turn meter booster, and she is fantastic. And speaking of turn meter boosters that can heal, coming in at number 9, we have one of the best turn meter manipulators and healers in the entire game, and that is Senna Amberheart. Senna has a revive when fully booked that is a 4-turn cooldown, AoE revive, 50% HP, and 50% turn meter. Pretty standard for an AoE revive in the game. Then, however, anybody she revives teams up with her to attack the lowest HP enemy using their default skills. So that can be relevant to add a little bit of extra damage, but overall, this revive in itself is not really what makes her so special and what makes her one of the best revivers. So this ability makes Senna a competent reviver, but what really sets her apart as a reviver is the rest of her kit. She's got a speed in all battles aura. She's got an A1 that has a 60% chance when fully booked to instantly activate a continuous heal on each ally. Her A2 places 2 continuous heals, puts increased speed on the team, and fills the turn meter of all allies by 20%. But what really makes this champion so ridiculous is the passive. Whenever a continuous heal buff activates on any ally, fills the turn meter of all allies by 5%. So she's activating those. She's putting 2 of them up with her A2. This really ramps your team's turn meter. She is like an energizer bunny that you just put on your team and everybody just starts taking more and more turns. She particularly has had a spike in value when it comes to Chimera Clan Boss, being one of the best healers, revivers, and speed leads for Chimera. But let's say you need a reviver that's just going to keep your team alive. That's going to make sure that they are just going to be there. He's going to be the rock to keep your team anchored down and making sure that they stay in the fight. If you're looking for that, then number 8 is probably going to be for you, and that is going to be Pythion. Pythion's revive is a 7-turn booking down to a 4-turn cooldown for an AoE revive, bringing allies back with 50% HP and turn meter. However, on top of that, he also places 25% strengthen on all allies, just to make sure that everybody stays alive for any subsequent hits. And that is the theme of Pythion. He's going to make your team tankier. So aside from having an excellent AoE revive, no complaints on it from me, he also has a phenomenal, unique passive in the game for every buff on your team up to 5 buffs. So stacking up to 25%, your team's going to receive that much less damage. So 25% less damage when you have 5 buffs rolling. Pythion also has a full team cleanse, heal, block debuffs, and brings max HP heals with his A1 as well. This guy is great, as great in the arena as he is in pretty much any PvE encounter. If you need somebody there just to make sure your team sticks and doesn't go down, Pythion is your guy, coming in at number 8. Next up on the list is one of my personal favorites, and that is a champion that is currently on my Nightmare Hydra team and my Ultra Nightmare Chimera team, and that is Elva Autumnborn. So looking just at her revive, Elva has a single target, 40% HP, 50% turn meter with increased defense and increased attack, so potentially both defensive and offensive buffs to the champion on a 5 booking down to a 3-turn cooldown. That's a very competent revive and is enough for some of the most difficult counters in the game, which is evidenced by the fact that Elva is one of the most meta Chimera and Hydra healers and revivers in the game right now. While this is a fine revive, the rest of her kit is really what makes her so amazing. Again, speed in all battle aura. Her passive is that she heals your team at the start of their turn by 10% of their max HP. Excellent. And at the end of her turn, she gives an ally Perfect Veil. Every time she uses her A1, she throws out a continuous heal on the lowest HP champion. And with her A2, she puts increased speed, block debuffs, and a full cleanse for your entire team. Pretty much covering everything you'd need in terms of heals, speed boost, reviving, cleansing. Elva is absolutely worthy of a top 7 spot for the best revivers in Raid. Coming in just before the top 5 at number 6 is Siphi the Lost Bride. Looking at her revive, Love Beyond Death, this is a single target revive, bringing an ally back with 55% HP and full turn meter. Also coming in with increased attack and increased crit rate. Crit rate not as relevant, attack could be potentially great. This is on a 4-turn cooldown when fully booked. The real thing that makes this an excellent, excellent revive is that full turn meter. When you're talking about a momentum swing, when you're talking about coming back from a losing position into a winning position, having an ally return with a potential damage increase and having full turn meter is exactly what you want from a revive. However, just like with Elva, it's the rest of Siphi's kit that makes her so incredibly powerful on top of an already decent revive. On her passive, again, healing every turn for your team and a chance to remove freezes and fears, very relevant in the arena today. On her A2, one of the most stacked A2s in the game, block debuffs, turn meter fill, increased defense, increased speed, all on the same ability for your team. Amazing. And then also an irresistible potential crowd control, very relevant in the arena, and also potential heal on her A1. And coming in at a very fast speed, Siphi has been and still continues to be an amazing arena champion, able to set up block buffs and potentially boost your team. She's a really good speed booster, but she's also obviously relevant in PvE parts of the game just because of all the incredible buffs that she brings for your team and the passive heals. And here we are, we've finally reached the top 5, and coming in at number 5 is Sulfuryion. Sulfuryion is one of my most wanted champions, and we're about to find out why. Looking at his revive, AoE revive, 50% HP and 40% turn meter. On its own, not that great, especially on a 5-turn cooldown. But the fact that it grants an extra turn, just like with Arbiter, allows him to not only have this on a 4-turn cooldown effectively, but also to immediately just ramp right into the rest of his amazing kit. So, reminds me a little bit of like the HP burn version of Senna Amberheart. Whereas she's all about continuous heals and ramping from those, he's all about HP burns and ramping from the burns. So with his A2, he places HP burn and instantly activates it. Very relevant in the arena, removing things like stone skin and also placing a shield on the team from the damage from the burn. Then with his A1, he ramps his own turn meter and for the team based off of hitting burning targets. With his passive, again, all about ramping from those HP burns and increasing his own speed. He's like a blazing wildfire, just going through, ramping, reviving, just amazing, and doing that damage as well. He's amazing in encounters like Hydra, Spider, Ice Golem, even Chimera, but he's also incredible in arena, again, for not only the ramping damage, but also the ability to just completely annihilate Stone Skin. Coming up at number 4 on the list is one of the OGs, one of the best tanky revivers in the entire game. I'm talking about Duchess Lilitu. Now, in terms of revive alone, Duchess has one of the most powerful ones. AoE revive with 70% HP on a 4-turn cooldown, but also places Veil on every champ except Duchess and continuous heal on all allies. Now, the one thing really missing here conspicuously is turn meter. However, with the Veil, with the continuous heal, and coming in with 70% HP, this is one of the strongest revives for just making sure your team stays alive for that next turn and actually gets to their next turn. So I have less issue with the fact that this doesn't have turn meter. If it did, this would be probably the most busted ability in the game, or busted revive in the game. Looking at the rest of her kit, Pythion was amazing for his damage reduction passive. Duchess has the exact same kind of passive, except in this case, it's not conditional. It's just always there. 25% less damage from AoE attacks for your allies, 15% from bosses. But that is so good, coupled with the Veil, makes it so hard to take down champions after they've been revived. Then on her A2, block debuffs, increase attack, perfect Veil this time. And then on her A1, a shield. Couple that with Speed in All Battles aura, and it's easy to understand why Duchess is so incredibly good, such a rock virtually everywhere in the game, and a staple of a lot of really tanky go-second teams in the arena. Coming up next, to kick off the top 3, is a champ that also brings perfect Veil in his kit, but in this case, where Duchess was more defense-oriented, Glaicad of the Meltwater is all about offense. Let's find out why I have chosen Glaicad of the Meltwater as the #1 non-mythical reviver in Raid Shadow Legends. So starting off with his revive, AoE revive on a 4-turn cooldown, bringing allies back 40% HP, 25% turn meter. That's fine, considering they're also coming back with increased accuracy and increased defense. For 3 turns, you like to see that any kind of durability buff on allies coming back with any kind of revive. Now that is a competent revive for pretty much any content in the game. On top of that, you can still use his A3 without reviving anybody if things are going well, and put increased accuracy and increased defense on your entire team, in addition to granting Glaicad an extra turn. Now, he's got hard crowd control on his A1. He's also got an A2 that buffs the team with increased attack and perfect Veil, and fills turn meter by 15%. Now, on top of that, perfect Veil, already a really good buff. His passive makes all your champions under Perfect Veil do 10% more damage. So this is that kind of opposite of Duchess passive here, where instead of receiving less damage, you're going to be doing more damage because of that Perfect Veil. So strong in Arena, so strong in PvE content. This is my vote for the number 3 champion overall in Raid in terms of revivers. At the number 2 spot in today's top 15, we are getting to our first mythical of the list, and that is Theodosia the Disgraced. Theodosia's Revive is a 4-turn cooldown, AoE, 50% HP and turn meter, and in addition to that, places unkillable for 2 turns. Pretty much couldn't ask for a better durability buff that you could throw on your champions, and for 2 turns at that. Incredible on its own AoE Revive. And then looking at the rest of her kit, what doesn't this champion have? 115 speed, 25% speed in all battles, aura, AoE cleanse for your team, perfect veil for your team, stone skin for this champion on the A2, more heals on the A1, and in her second form, we're talking about an extremely disruptive champion who steals buffs from the entire enemy team, puts up block buffs, decrease defense, decrease speed, sleep, destroys the enemy's speed with her A1. I mean, what can you say about this champion that she can't do? It obviously deserving of a top spot. The only thing keeping her from being in the number 1 spot is a champion that I believe is even more powerful as a reviver. And in the number 1 spot, the best reviver in Raid Shadow Legends is Starsage Galathir. So starting off with his revive, we have a 4-turn cooldown, AoE, 50% HP, and turn meter that places perfect veil on all allies. So keeping them safe from AoE, keeping them away from being targeted, forcing potentially the enemy to target Galathir, who has an amazing passive for decreasing damage. On his A2, removes also full cleanse, heal by 25% of his max HP, turn meter boost, and block debuffs all in one ability. Absolutely insane. Further turn meter ramping with his A1, and then switching him over to his alternate form, he becomes one of the most disruptive champions in the entire game. He's got turn meter reduction on his A1. He's got a full buff strip with block active skills on his A2, and on his A3, he can AoE stun, putting increased accuracy on every one of your allies. Galathir is, in my opinion, the best reviver in Raid Shadow Legends. He is as good in the arena as he is pretty much anywhere else. He's great right now in PvE encounters, Hydra, Chimera, especially right now, helping with completing those trials. And in the arena, he's considered one of the top peak meta champions. And there you have it, everybody. 15-1, the best revivers in Raid Shadow Legends. If you liked today's video, please consider liking and subscribing for more content in the future. Let me know down in the comments below if there's any champions you think should have made the list today, or if there are any other guides or showcases or lists that you would like to see on the channel. Thank you for watching today's video. Thank you for your time. Have a great day, and I will catch you in the next one.